everybody, welcome back. So today I want to hopefully get started getting this queen treadle put back together. This is for a lovely Hawaiian lady, and this is her machine. This is actually her name in Hawaiian, Pulanani, I think that's how you pronounce it. And then on the back she has ohana, which I only know from watching, Disney movies. But I think that it is very lovely, very lovely. So I just put a little bit of oil back in. I strip all of the oil out when I'm getting these things stripped, obviously. So I'm putting some oil in and turning everything here. It's a little hard just to turn this to get her lubricated. So let me go ahead, flood some more oil in here in these vertical areas, and we'll get started getting her put together. Okay, so she is all oiled up and loosely running, ready to go. You can see, flipping around there. And I think I'm going to get started down here on her faceplate because honestly, there's a whole lot of stuff in here. And I believe this side is where the tension unit goes. Ta-da! Okay, I came up with this. I thought this was pretty cool. I have these little plates, but this is one of those little promotional magnets, that they give away at the library and stuff. It has information on the back, repurposing. And I just hot glued it in here, so look, I can put my parts in, big parts, and they won't move. So that's my excitement for the day. Okay, so I have this tension disc and this piece here. And they stack on top of each other like that. Okay. You can kind of see in here that line. That is the line where the thread has just kind of worn itself. And this was rusty. I did clean it. I might try to give it one more polish. That's just stain at this point. But I'll try to clean it up one more time before I put it together. But see, this is I was at first thinking, oh, I'm just going to flip it over so that we have this side to work with. But I don't think I can because see how this side is set in some and this side is coming out some. So I don't think that is going to work. And they were held with this tiny little pin that goes through this tiny little hole. So let me give these one more quick little polish and then we'll put it on. I want to show you, this is a I think 2000 grit sanding sponge, and I am just trying my best to make sure it's as smooth as possible down there. Okay, and then there's this piece that's going to go on top. You can see how it sticks out a little bit there. That's where the thread comes through that way. Alrighty. Alrighty, so I've got my little pin through there, and I need to just push it into this tiny hole. Alright, got it started. I'm going to use the little rubber side here just to gently tap in. I need it to go in a little bit more, so I'm going to get a little punch so I can aim it straight at that and give it a little tap, just to link it in a little bit better. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and secure this up here on top. That is where this goes. So to increase tension, you're going to turn this screw to the right. To decrease tension, you will turn it to the left. For right now, I'm going to get it in there, but not, crank it in too hard. I don't want that to dig in before it's time. Now at this point, I am not sure exactly how far I need to drill this pin in. I know it was slightly loose before, but I'm going to leave it out a bit until I can figure out my tension much later in this game. And if I need to tap it in more, I can, but it's easier to tap it in more than to tap it in too much and have to back it out, So we're just going to leave that there for right now. Okay, so next I am going to get this bar put back in. It's going to go right up here. Wait, come on, line up for me. And it's attached with 2 screws from the outside, right here and right here. So there's one, just nicely started. Again, I will cinch them in later because this is an adjustment point-ish. And since I can get to these screws from the outside, I have no problem. Actually, you know what? No, I can tighten those. Sure I can. Actually, I got them pretty tight before, didn't I? I need a narrower bit, though. Okay. All right, step 2 is complete. I'm going to start working on the presser bar here. So I have this little piece. It's actually 2 pieces smushed together here. No, it's not. It's one. I dropped the other. Hang on. Let's put this back on. This has a little nub that sticks out, and this has a hole for that little nub to fall into. Okay. And here I have one hole that goes all the way through, and then one threaded one in the middle. Okay, I'm putting it right here on this threaded one, like this. Getting it started. I believe this is a thread cutter. Okay, and I did that and realized I have the bottom one upside down. So let me pull this off again and I'll show you. Okay. This one, it has like this one part that's kind of a little bit jagged. That actually should be over here. So popping it back together now. And the jagged part is the bottom layer. Put this back here. And carefully hold that so it's back together this way. Okay. That does look better. And then let's get this little knurled piece started. Come on, thread straight for me. All right, before I go too far, I want to slide this little piece over the top, and that needs to line up with this opening here. So just while I'm getting it started, I'm just going to thread it a little at a time. Come on. Slide. As soon as this gets down far enough, there we go, there we go, there we go. Okay, now it's going to stay still. Well, that was difficult. Difficult? Lemon difficult? I can't, well, that's obviously wrong. I can't remember if it's this way or this way. Let me go double check. Actually, I can just put that on after I get it in here, and then it'll be obvious which way that goes, which is a good thing. Okay, so now I have this little screw, which is going to go in here. It does it? It feels too big. It feels like this needs to be a set screw or something. All right, I will get those screws straightened out, but before I do, I'm just going to put this one back in really quick because I know that's where it goes. And okay, now I can swap those out. You know what? I was right. I just have, oopsie, I have this turned down too far. Pick up my screw starter, get it back in here, and get this tightened up. Okay. And put those little pieces back on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in these holes here for the little shaft to pass through. And this needs to come up from the bottom over here. Okay, so that's moving very well. Up here on the top, this spring is going to go down. And then this little finial is going to hold it in, okay? Nice spring action there. And, hang on one sec, let me double check something. I think I got ahead of myself screwing this on, but I can pull this out underneath it. this little piece, you see it's like a fork here, and there's grooves on the side. The grooves are going to need to go over there, and this little slider piece is going to need to go in grooves over here. Okay, like that. And then this slides up inside of here, like this. And I'm going to throw some oil in there so it will stay nice and happy. Okay, so now that's going to keep it in place. Okay, so this is, in general, how this foot needs to sit. I'll be able to line it up exactly once it's on the machine, hopefully. I want to go ahead and get this just started. I need to be able to adjust this, you know, later. But for right now, I'm just going to get these screws in so they don't get lost. Put this in here. Okay. That is good enough for right now. Let's get the next piece. All right, I just unscrewed this one just a hair so I can rotate this, because I'm going to need to be pushing this up through the bottom here. And if that foot was in the way, that could be trouble. So while I'm pushing that up, let me throw some oil in here. And it's going to set like this. There's a little groove over there. And bring it up. Yay, that's looking good. Okay. Great, now I need to figure out where exactly this needs to get screwed on. So if you look really closely, I can kind of see a dimple right here and a dimple right there. That should correspond to these two screw holes. So I am going to try to get it lined up so that those match up again. Yes. Okay, I can see that through that hole. Put this down carefully and get my screw started. One here. And the other one on the bottom. All right, looking good, looking good. I'll throw some oil in there right now so I don't forget for later. All right, so we have a needle clamp down here. Actually, I can go ahead and turn this. Let's look for, just the same way I did with that one, let's look for the dimple. And I can kind of see a little dimple right there. All right. And that looks like the most suspect one because it's in, you know, approximately the right position. So if I line this up, I think it's right there. Let me go ahead and pull this screw out, make sure I can see that little dimple through the hole and then put it back in. Okay, oopsie, sorry about that. So I think I've got these in the right place. Hoping, thinking, hoping, you know. This is my needle clamp. This is the little thread guide here. The thread guide goes on top. Flip this over, pop it on like this. And then on the back is where this is going to go. And I do have the needle here. The original needle looked pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Make sure it's flat up against the side here. It's not feeling quite right. Usually I don't put them on when it's laying flat, so maybe that's it. Okay, so I have it pushed up all the way. that's tight. Okay. But look, that can't be right, because if I push this down, it misses that foot all together. So that can't be the right dimple. It's impossible. Impossible. So let me loosen this up again. And let's see. If I want this to line up with that needle, it's got to be like this. Oh, what's this? What's this? Well, you know what? I'm going to put this at the same level as that dimple, and it's just going to be close enough, you know, and then we're just, otherwise I'm just going to sit here and second guess myself. Once I have everything together where I can actually figure out how to make it sew, then we'll figure it out from there. But for right now, right there, looks good. And that way the needle will go through the center of the toes of the presser bar, you know, because otherwise it was not going to. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty darn good. Okay. All right, I want to go ahead and get the lifter lever on. Now, this was kind of sandwiched with the washer behind it and the threaded part. Way like that. So the washer is behind it and the nuts on, or the screw head is on the outside. I did take my little finial off just to make sure I could relieve the pressure up here. Okay, so let's screw this back on. Let's see what happens. So that is locking it up, and that's just raising it up a little bit. And that's raising it way up. So we have different options here. So the washer is going to keep this from rubbing right up against the painted surface, which is a good idea. We don't want that to get destroyed before it's time. I think that is about it for this piece, I believe. Let me set it aside and then we'll work on the main machine. Okay, so let's talk about this. If you remember, it gave me quite a pickle taking it apart. So here's this little star, and it has a hole in it, and there's a spring in there that I did not take out. But I need to rotate this so that that spring is under tension, because that is what's going to keep this wanting to pop back down. So the question is, how tight is it supposed to be? Okay, that is at rest, and that is a moderate tightness. At that tightness, it will want to come back down. If I can turn it one more time to the next opening, is that too much, is my question. I think so, because it just wants to pop off. So for right now, I'm just going to turn it to that first space under pressure. Okay, so that is at rest. That is the first position. And I'm going to stick this screw in there to hold it. If when I'm getting her timed up, it looks like I'm going to need to increase that, well, I can, but honestly, that's working pretty good. And if you remember, I did, you know, decide to leave this in because I was having issues in here. I think that's okay. But again, it's on the outside, so I can change that later. Okay, I want to get this wheel back together, and I just took a whole bunch of photos of the dimensions of this spring. I will put them up so that if you are also missing this spring, you know, it might come in handy for you. you know, they can get missing, but that is what it looks like. Set this piece in. Oh, do I have to remove paint? I hope not. I think I might. Well, let's see if I can just work it like this, huh? And then I'm going to put this little screw in over here. Actually, no, I need to put that spring on before I do this. Silly. And you know what? While I have it pulled out, I'm going to move this over onto my magnet and go ahead and clean that paint off from in there, because you can see it's going to need to be removed. It's going to scrape off anyway. Okay, so I just got that spring pushed into place. Sliding this in here. Okay. I can see that little groove is rubbing up against that spring, so I believe that is good. Get this lined up here. Get that lined up. And my screw, here it is. My screw in, and let's see if that is correct, huh? Okay. Push that up, snap it down. Okie doke. Again, I had to take a little bit of paint off the sides there, and I double checked. I think this is correct. All right, so like this, there's one screw here that's going to lock it onto the main shaft. Let me see if I can get this so it's in camera. There is a little groove right here that screw hole needs to line up with. You know what, let me just put this on first. Let's put oil in it, huh? That would be good, because that is very dry in there. Okay. All right. That looks good. And now this little slot right, sorry about that, over here is what this is going to line up with for right now. And I need to see where this hole is going to be. But I'm going to try to be smart and get my screw starter on that screw before I have to drop everything. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I'm going to put a drop of oil on this outside edge because it is also dry. And in here, right on this part that's going to slide on it. All right, so lining this up with that, push it on. Get that in there. Yes, yes. Okay. And now turning this, I'm turning the main shaft with my hand up here till I see that little groove, which looks like right there. And I need to push it back a hair. Hang on a sec. It got moved forward a bit because this needs to be flush at the end. Okay, that is looking a lot better. See how the main shaft end is flush right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this screw set in. And tighten it up. Okay, so with this up, I should be able to turn it, find that space. Oh, that's just a little bit of paint right there. Get out of there, a little bit of paint. And it should lock in place here to re-engage the wheel. That is just silent. Look at how silent that is. Okay. It's nice. It's very nice. Okay. Let me go ahead and probably get started on things underneath. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the next day. And I'm going to get started putting things on underneath here. So I'm just buffing off these little insides of these little paddles here. I think that is pretty good. Just a little 600 grit sanding sponge there. And I'm going to put a dot of oil on each one. Okay. And you know what? Before I do anything, I'm going to lightly buff this little post too, so I didn't take it off. Just to make sure everything's good. Looks like there's an imperfection in the casting over here, but since it didn't seem to bother it before, I guess it's not going to bother it now. All right. Putting some oil on here. Okay. And we've got this little ball. And the way this is going to go, for right now I'm just going to set this here for a moment. I need to get these two little washers that are shaped like little bowls. And this is always a bit tricky. Oops. I think I hear someone driving up. Hang on. Nope, I was wrong. Okay, so the trick is, just to let you know, this, I need to get these two to sit on either side of this little ball piece right here, okay, like that. And then slide this into place without them falling off. Oh, I dropped one. Of course. Hang on. So, you know, it's finicky, and I don't know that there's an easy way to do it. I've tried it with these machines at different angles, and okay. Oh, there we go. It's in. It is in. All right, yes. Okay. All right. Before things get out of sorts, you know, I am going to go ahead and get some pieces put back in. First of all, there's a clamping screw that's going to go through here and hold that together just a bit. Okay, I just have it fairly snug. And then I have this little cone-shaped piece. Some oil on it. That's going to slide in here. And I'm just going to hold it in there and make sure that this is going to turn well. And it is. Yay. All right. I have a little set screw. And that's going to come in the side here. Like this, to hold this ring in place so it's not going to come loose. And then we have this little end screw here that's going to come on here this way and make sure it doesn't fall off. Okay, so let me get all of this snugged up. And every time I snug something, I'm going to spin the wheel. And see, that feels a little snug. I don't want this to be so compressed onto the end here that it's going to bind up. So I think right there is pretty good. And then I can come back. pull this out so it's right up against there. You don't want this to be sloppy though. You don't want a lot of movement, because if this is just a little bit too far down, it's going to impact how your needle hits the shuttle, and your stitches won't make up right, and this will be really noisy. So it's all quite the balancing act. I need a different bit to snug that in. All right. Very good, very good. And I probably should have put this bracket on before I put it on, but you know, what I want to show you is this big slot here. That's going to be an adjustment point. The bracket that's going on just has a hole, and that slot's going to make it so you can move this in and out. All right. So if I can hold it this way, remember just about every little screw underneath here did have a washer. So we have our little washer. I'm going to hold that there while I get the screw started. So at this point, I think I have it pretty much in the middle, but when I'm getting everything, you know, adjusted, when I'm actually trying her out, I can come back in and loosen this and smush it forward if I need it closer, or farther away if I need it farther. It all is just depending on where that needle is hitting in relation to the tip of the shuttle. And that shuttle is going to go back and forth this way along this curved edge here. All right, so now that this is in and functioning well, I'm going to be working on this shaft. And it has grooves where little screws are going to go into. What the difference is the side down here is there's the little groove stops a bit of a ways, about 1/4 inch from the end, and the end of it is a circle. Down here, the groove goes all the way to the end, and the end is a square. Okay, so we set that there for a second. This little piece is going to be riding on this bearing right here, like that. And it should have a place for a little set screw. There it is. Okay, so that's going to be helpful. I'm just going to turn it like that so I can see it for right now. So I'm going to be pushing this from the end. Oopsie, you know what? That's not going to work. Hang on a second. I think I need to do it this way and then slide it in down there. That will work for me. And you know, I should have put more oil in these little clamps first. Okay. Coming through there, coming through here, making sure it turns well, and it does. Okay. So now I'm going to slide this over so that that little end can come up. And I'm looking at this hole here and see the groove right there. I want those to line up. I think they are. Okay. And I can still see that groove in there. And I know you can't see, but this shaft needs to come all the way so it is... How can I do this so you can see? This shaft is going all the way so that it is flush with this level right here. So I need to push it just a hair, and I think that is good. And I can still see that it is lined up there with that groove. So I'm going to get one of these little screws in here and get it started and hold it in place. I'll cinch that up in a minute, but now I need to come down here. Remember, there's another groove down here, which this one is going to go on to. So more oil inside of there. And, oh my goodness. All right. I am really going to try to work on my camera angles. I am really sorry. It's just difficult sometimes. Difficult. Now I can see, can you see those little imperfections right there? That's where the screw was hitting it before. So if I push this all the way so that I can see that groove and those little dimples in there, I can feel pretty secure that that is the right position, okay? So let me go ahead and get this one on. And again, I don't want to push this on so tightly that it's going to bind, because it does need to spin freely. And let's see. I think that's good. I think that is good. I'll cinch those up in a second, but on these clamps on either side, there's a little hole there, and one of these larger screws goes into each one, and those are going to get tightened in, and that's going to hold this secure up here. Okay, so that's what that shaft is looking like. Again, turning the wheel after every piece to make sure that there's no issues. We're ready for the next piece. Alrighty, so my next step is this. This has to do with stitch length. And up, oh, I am so sorry, I'm falling here. If you can see, there's an opening right here, and this needs to go up into that opening, okay? Oh, how was that? Because this needs to be up here. I believe, is it up here? It might have been above that foot. Let me take a peek. Okay, it was above that foot. Usually everything is confined inside here, but this was actually above it. So glad I went back and checked. This piece rotates now. It was frozen before. So this is going to stick through there, and this is going to be up here. Now before I connect that, I have this little piece. It's not a screw, it just pushes in, and it has this little rectangular bearing. So throwing some oil on there so that that can turn. That was froze up too. And over here there's a hole that's going to go into, okay? So this screw with its little washer, you know what, let me get that started here. Okay, put this in. No, goodness, I'm gonna have to move you up because I am working at a really bizarre angle here. Okay, I was thinking that there must be people who are really good with figuring out how to set up camera angles and things for bizarre spaces like mine, that I could hire to come in for a day and just watch me and troubleshoot and come up with better ideas. You know, I don't think there's anything like that near me right now. Anyway, this screw should be going up and pushing up against this. So now when I have that cinched in all the way, this isn't going to turn here, this round part, but I want the bearing to turn. It does a little bit. I'm actually going to back this out and pull that out just a hair so it's not quite as tight. Okay, that bearing is moving freer now. I think that's going to be good. Okay, so up here on the top, I'm going to go ahead and put this plate on. There's one side has little measurement lines that goes towards the outside. Just going to get on here, and I have a couple little roundish headed screws that are going to lock that in on either side. Okay, so now I have this little pointer, and it's pointing towards the measurement lines down here, okay, and then a little knurled screw that goes on top like that. All right, can I move you? Yes, I can. Look at that. We can adjust stitch length now. Let me tip her up. From below, when I'm moving this, this is what is happening, okay? That's how the stitch length is turning. Just make sure it's moving freely, and it is, you know. It's not super free, but you don't want it to be flapping everywhere. And if it's in the position that you really want to stay in for a while, just turn that screw in so it'll hold its place. If you want to move it, back it out a bit, move it, screw it back in. Okay. All right. And while I'm dealing with things down here, I want to put this back on. This is a clamp for latching it back into the cabinet for when it gets back home. So it does have a spring. And this is going to go up through here. And push it up a bit. Oh my goodness, that is tight, isn't it? I think the spring actually goes this way. Yeah, that looks better. Okay. Push that up here and catch it. Okay. And it should be able to turn, and it does. So when it's going back into the cabinet, you can turn it, latch it onto the wood, turn it, release it. So you can tip her up. Okie dokie. Actually, I need to take this off again because there is supposed to be a washer underneath here. And I've got it right here. All right, now let's put that back on. Much better. That feels better. All right, I'm going to start with the bar that goes across here, okay, that holds the feed dogs, does the stitch length, all of that. Everything that has to do with feed dogs is in this. So it's going to hook on here. That bearing, that rectangular bearing right there is what's going to be inside this fork. And this did have a little leather dot, and I tried my best to clean around it. I'm actually going to put a little drop of oil on there to try to keep it soft, you know. That's a buffer of some kind. And this is going to be on here like that. So as you can see, again, this is a slidey part on a straight hole, so that is an adjustment point. And like just about everything else under here, it does have a little washer. I can do this without dropping my washer. I'll hold that on and get it started. And there we go, there we go. I think I made a note in my take apart video on where this was placed, but I can kind of see on here, if you look right here, I can see a ghost image of this shape. So I'm just going to push it up so it matches where that image is, because I'm assuming that's the right position. Okay, got that in, and now I'm going to tighten it up. Okay, so if I can turn this so that I can slide my fork on it, that would be nice. Has to go straight on. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. All right, so that is on there now. Feels a bit tight, doesn't it? I'm not sure if that's right. I think it's this way. I think I had it upside down. I believe it's this way. Hang on. Okay, that feels much better. Much, much better. It feels so much better, it's just going to slide off. So hang on. I'm going to set that in and kind of hold it in place for a second. Okay. All right. Good deal. I just have it hanging out there for a moment because there's some other pieces I need to get put in before it's gonna stay. So again, screw with washer, and this little bracket is gonna stay right here. Come on. Okay, so now that that's on, let's see if we can get this so that it will stay. Once again, I'm going to try to slide this on up here. Okay, now this little bracket, and again, that was a leather piece and it is oiled, so hopefully it will last, you know, another century or so. Put more on because why not? All right, this is what is going to help it ride up against this cam here, like that. Oops, pushed it too far. Oh, I have it backwards. Toy. All right, this needs to be here, so if I can just push it that way, that's gonna work. Okay. And you know, it's looking kind of like I'm going to need to move that cam over a hair, isn't it? Isn't it? See how that's not exactly lining up exactly? But before, you know, I let go, I'm going to go ahead and get this screwed on. And again, I can kind of see a ghost image of where this bracket was before. So I'm going to try to line it up, kick sideways here in that same position. And again, screw, oopsie, with washer coming in here. Okay. All right, just to hold that so it's not going to fall. Oh, it's going to fall anyway because I don't have the spring on. There's a spring that's going to tie it on up here. Just set this screwdriver under here for right now. Will that hold? Maybe. Let me go get that little spring thing. Okay, so again, another screw with washer and spring. Okay. Now, I need to get this so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to get it started in this little hole, and then I'll adjust where that end of that spring goes. This is going to be clipping down. There's a little finger area there. And I'm going to tighten this up so I should be able to release it. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this fork on up here. Okay, get that down there. Push this down so it will hook in the little opening that I want it to hook in, right there. Okay. I feel like if I let this go, it's just going to go flying. So I'm going to loosen this up right here. Let me turn this here. And just move it out for a second because you see how that was not lined up correctly. Now it is. That is loose, but I need to just double check a couple placements. Okay, I just looked at the video when I was taking it apart, and this wasn't completely lined up before. It was only like halfway on there. So about where this is. So I think that I had it correct. It just doesn't line up perfectly, which is, it's going to drive me nuts, but that's how it was before, and I don't think it had been taken apart, so we're going to call it good. But something is not right now. All right, I think I see what my problem is, and it is this. So let me back this off here. Okay, see how this is adjustable? This actually needs to be inside of it. I may need to put this piece on after. Hang on, let me just take this off again. Troubleshooting, you know, as you do. All right, so now I'll just slide this on first. Again. on. Okay, that is slid on. The spring. Oh, come on down, spring. Actually, I think I have that in too far now. Bring it out a bit. Like that, I think. Okay, so it will latch under there. And then, and only then, will this piece go on the outside of that. That was my fault. But if I just hold this, now it's going to turn. So let me go ahead and get this screw back on to hold that bracket on. I have it just loosely on. I want this close enough to that bar that it's not going to let it wobble, but not so tight that it's going to bind it. And you know what, I'm going to pull it out for a second and throw a couple drops of oil in there and then put it back in. Okay. And again, just very lightly. It's supposed to hold it in place but not clamp it in. Let's see how that works. I think that's working. I think I actually need to adjust this spring over again. Like that. So it's a little more in line. Okay. There we go. See it snapping back up? That's what I want. Oh, that makes me happy. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit more oil up here where this bearing is, because there's going to be a lot of friction up there. And I need to get the feed dogs screwed on. Okay, actually, before I put my feed dogs on, I want to put my needle plate on, just so I can see if they're going to line up correctly. Oh, you know what? This is as clean as it's going to get, but I want to try something. I got some stuff here. This is called 𝐥𝐢𝐤𝐞. I was watching a watch restoration video, and they were using this to do a fine-tuning cleaning of little bitty parts. So I got a pack just to see. I think it would be really handy for cleaning out inside bobbin cases and things, you know. But yeah, I think that is, it looks a lot better looking at it straight on than at an angle, but trust me, it is as clean as it's going to get. So let me get this screwed on right there. Okay, so now that that is on, I'm going to put my feed dogs on here. Well, that was a bad idea. All right, come on. Sheesh. I don't think I can. I think I actually need to loosen it up again. Oh my goodness. There's a bar going across right under those feed dogs. Hang on. Pop that up a hair. There we go. All right. Okay, so now that they are in there, you can see on this side, this is where they're going to be attached, and you can adjust it to make them higher or lower. I'm going to try to put them where they were in the beginning, and again, I can kind of see a ghosty image of where that was. So that's what we're shooting for, which is kind of in the middle-ish. All right, I'm not going to cinch that yet because I might have to change it. But if I flip her up, what does it look like? Wow, that spring really throws them forward, doesn't it? That's a very long stitch length. That's the shortest. Okay, so over here, pushing it all the way forward or towards the front of the machine is the shortest stitch length. And it doesn't look like it has a stationary one, just a short one. And that little thinky noise, thunk thunk, that's just the spring throwing that plate forward. Okay, if I push it all the way back, This should be long, and it is. That just sounds like that spring is way too high. It shouldn't slap it up against the front there, in my opinion. So let me see what I can do here. It is slapping it forward really, really hard. If I back this spring off just a hair, take off some of that tension, what's going to happen? Well, now it doesn't want to do it at all. So I think that for this machine, I do have to have it so it's going to be somewhat tight. Because if this isn't under enough tension, it's just not going to want to bring it forward again. At least it seems like that to me right now. So put this in place, stick it under, and tighten it up. Come on, Marie, work the screwdriver. Well, that's not as noisy. It's actually better. It's actually a nice little click now, not a thunk. It's more like a nice little click. So maybe I adjusted it just right, you know, and didn't notice. She's just about ready to try out, actually. Let me get her bobbin winder put back together. Okay, I'm going to start putting this. Oh my goodness, Marie. Okay, start putting this wire and the bobbin follower into that slot down there. Okay. And then this is going to go on. I should have a little screw. Oops. It should look something like this. To go in here. No, that is the wrong screw. Totally wrong screw. This is too long. That's the one that holds it on. And that's the one for there. Oh, it's this one. Oops. Okay. So let me go ahead and get this screw put on here just to hold that follower in place. Okay. So now that spring is going to catch it when I pull it this way. Okay. Now I have my little heart-shaped cam, and I'm going to get that started on here. Now if you see, this cam, it has more of a slot hole than a circular hole, so it can shift up and down. So that's an adjustment point that I might want to be aware of later, so I'm not cinching that in yet. This screw is not eccentric, okay? So since this is not an eccentric bolt, it must go straight in. If that's straight in, can this still move up and down is my question. Not really, not really. So there really isn't much of adjustment available. Interesting, you know, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna pull this all the way over, and you know, I need to take the paint off of there. I really do. Let me go ahead and do that really quick, just because that's going to be metal on metal going around, so I don't want that extra friction on there. You ever have to cut paint off? Do yourself a big favor, and before you start peeling it off, score around the edge. Yeah, that's a drip. It's going to get covered, though. Sorry about that. Life, you know. But score around the edges just to kind of break it off at the edge. Because otherwise, if you want to come in and you start to pull it off, there's a chance you could peel paint off, which is never a good day. You know, never is. So you can see it's not that big of a deal. This is dry, but it's not going to be 100% cured until probably a few more weeks. So once it's really, really cured, this would be a lot more difficult, but for right now, we're good. All right, I'm just going to clean that up real quick, and then we'll put that on. Okay, actually, need oil on here before I do that. That's probably an excessive amount of oil. All right. Make sure that shoulder is going all the way through, and it is. Pulling the follower back. And let's get this started. Okay. Well, it seems to be spinning really freely, which is a good thing. Let me clean up. I have a couple little things I want to clean there and get it up onto the machine. Okay, she has this pin sticking out, and that pin is going to be in here. And so should sit like that. Okay. Get this screw in from the side here. And since that pin is there, I think that this bobbin winder is just stationary. This is unusual. Now this does not get a tire. It's going to run off of the belt on the treadle. So, and she's an unusual shape, so I'm going to have to see how I can make this work on my machine. So, but you can see she is working, so that's great. It is spinning. The follower, oops, follower needs to go down a bit. Hang on. Okay, let's try that again. Follower is snappy and following. So yeah, I think that's going to work well. All right, so I have just a couple more parts that kind of have to do with getting her mounted into her cabinet. I have hinges, I have this little bracket, but I want to go ahead and this bobbin, the one that she came with, is already wound, so I'm just going to pop that in really quick. Pull off the little screw. Oh, I did not put this together yet. Okay, so I've got my little magnet holding all my pieces together so I don't lose anything. Let me get my little tray out and we'll put the bobbin winder, or I mean the shuttle together, because it's a little bit different. All right, so there's 2 layers of the spring here that just set on there. Come on. All right, so here's with everything off. This first layer, the end, it's got a little hook on it. You can see that tiny hook. It's going to go in here and hook it on, so it's going to kind of hang out like that. And then this one goes in and flips down like that. And got my screw on my tiny, tiny screw starter here to get it started. And then I need a little one to go ahead and tighten it up. Okay, so this is screwed in all the way at this point, and that is going to make this the tightest this spring can be. I'm actually going to back it off, about a 1/4 turn. Let's see how that works. And this is old thread because I have not wound a button yet. I mean a bobbin. And I'm going to cut this little tail off right here so it doesn't bother anything. Okay, so with it wrapping this way, okay, and looking where that slot is, I'm going to drop it in. Remember, it's going over a spindle inside there, and pull this straight down around, and it snaps underneath that first little piece. Okay, just wrap it around and back up. And as you pull, you should be able to see the bobbin turning. And that is a lot of pressure. Too much for me. I'm going to back the screw out another quarter turn and see if that makes it any better. And again, this is old thread, so, you know, I've got that going against me right now. All right, it's getting used to the idea of turning now, but I'm going to go ahead and loosen it one more little turn. First of all, make sure I can just pull it this way. See, that wants to stick. That does want to stick. Let me play with this for a while. I may need to just come in here and, you know, once again, I did clean this out before, but put a drop of oil in there somewhere or anything just to smooth out the path, because that thread should come out a lot easier than it is. I have a feeling it's inside this bobbin and the spindle that where the hang up is. So I'm actually putting a tiny drop of oil inside the spindles here and see if that's going to help it. Oh, yeah, that's moving better. Okay. So yeah, that's moving a lot better. So it was just probably just a bit of roughness inside of that little tube of the spindle, because that feels good. Okay, let's bring this forward. Oh, I don't want you to fall. Okay, I'm going to pop the bobbin in and see how that sounds. Oh, I just noticed something else here. No, actually, it's sounding good. That noise is that feed dogs, of course, but it's looking really good. I won't know for sure until I put the whole front part back on here. So, you know, that is life. I'm going to go ahead and put the back plate on. I got these as clean as I could. One is shorter than the other. The front one is shorter than the back one. And it does have a serial number, if you're into that. It is 74147. So that's kind of an auspicious kind of serial number. Okay, so the back one is in place. And once again, a quick little going over with my 3000 grit sanding sponge. Doing the best we can. This had some plating on it that was flaked, you know. You can kind of see the remnants there. But it's not like you can just run down to Dollar General and pick up more of these. So you just do the best you can. Okay. I'm going to push this not all the way. I want that thread to be loose so that it can come out if it needs to while I get everything else together. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the hinges back on the back, and then there's this little bracket that has nothing to do with the mechanics. It's just so that it will work with a hinge on the treadle cabinet. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back on, and then we'll work on the front plate. Okay, I've got her set up over here on my universal treadle machine base, and I need to get the front plate screwed on. I've got 2 big screws that's going to do that from the back side here. So hopefully all will go well. The only tricky part is I need to make sure, oh, I need to turn you, hang on. I need to line up this little bearing here, bit of oil on it, with this little slot right there, okay? So let's see here. Put the needle into the hole, let the lifter lever come up from the back. Where are you? Trying to find that groove in the back here. Okay. And lower that. Okay, if I turn the wheel and the lever goes up, we're in business. Up. Something's not lining up exactly right. What is it? Okie doke. So it's actually been a couple hours because I got hungry. I had to go to eat lunch. And so what I want to show you is, of course, this is back off again. When I put it on, the needle was angled slightly and it wasn't lining up with the holes. So did a couple things. First, I took it off and realized I had this part on upside down. So, you know, it's down with the thread guide at the bottom. And the needle is lining up now. And I did switch out the needle. This is the original one, which is just fine. It's a thicker needle. But what I did is I was using my Boyle needle and shuttle guide, and it did have a setting for queen. So that was their tube size number 12. And so I got one of these out, and it is the right size for that. So that's handy. If you ever see one with a size 12 on it, a big number 12, the smaller numbers are like the needle size as far as like 12, 14, whatever, the thickness of the needle. This is the overall size. So that fits a queen treadle, if you see them about. So I'm going to go ahead, now that I have that fixed, put it back on and see if it's going to work. Okay. So let me see how close I can get you. I have extension cords going all over the place here. Let's see if she's going to sew. She did catch the bobbin thread, and so I think the shuttle is going to be good. And I just have a little piece of fabric here. I'm just going to fold it in half. It's from an old sheet. I think I have the tension right, and let's see how this goes. Oops, I need to change to a longer stitch length. I'm going to need to lower my presser foot. Yeah, I'm going to need to lower my presser foot because it is up so high it's not even making contact with the feed dog. So give me a minute. I'm going to need to open that up, release that clamping screw that I showed you earlier, that I said I'm probably going to have to come back and redo this. Okay, I'm going to lower it a bit and then we'll be back here. Okay, I want to show you, she is sewing. What I ended up having to do is, I thought when I first took it off that the feed dogs weren't pressing because it was not traveling through. Turns out what it was is, remember that spring underneath here that clipped onto that bar and moved it back and forth for the feed dogs? I actually needed to increase the tension on that because once you had the pressure of the feed dogs of the presser foot on top of the feed dogs, that spring was set so that there wasn't enough tension to pull it. So the feed dogs were just going up and down. So I loosened up the screw, which is, you know, right about here, rotated that little spring, tightened it back up again, and now we are in business. And she is actually sewing really well. So you do turn the wheel towards you, and this is at a fairly long stitch here. It is nice and balanced. So what I did is I route the thread from up here through this thread guide, and then hooking it, there's a little sharp part here, hooking the thread underneath there so it comes up out here, and then you can just push it through this. There's a little clip right there that you can just pull the thread through, this thread take-up lever, and then down here through this little thread guide, and then through the needle from the outside going in. I just say that because a lot of times I'll have someone, you know, much later ask me a question on how to thread something that I didn't show, and I don't have the machine with me anymore to be able to do that. So let me go ahead and shorten the stitch length and see how that's going to work. Beautiful. It is absolutely a beautiful stitch. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so down here, if you can see, let's watch this bobbin winder in action. So remember, the bobbin winder, it's in line, and you know, this is my makeshift table. But if I don't know the exact dimensions of the wheel on the one that's going to be at the house. And so let's go ahead and release the clutch and see how this is going to work. So I've released the clutch so that the needle is not moving here. And you can see my bobbin winder is kind of going back and forth, but this is loose, okay? If I put it behind here, it's going to make more of a connection to it. And I think that that would be a better way to go, you know? But since this is stationary and it can't move forwards or backwards, that's just the way it has to be. But it is moving very smoothly. So that is good. So yeah, I think she is great. I think she's ready. I'm going to go ahead and re-engage this clutch. Oh, where is that little opening? There it is. Sew with her for a little bit longer just to make sure nothing is going to pop out of sorts. Probably use up the bobbin that's in here and then go ahead and put another little bit of thread onto her, and then I'll be back. I want to show you for winding the bobbin, coming from here around this thread guide, and then down here there is a little eyelet that you can pop the thread through here and then through up here. So let me grab that shuttle, get out the little bobbin here, okay, and it does have this little hole which is going to need to engage over on this side. So what I'm going to do is put it in here first and get it settled. You have to turn this until it clicks in, okay? So it's clicked in now, and now I'm going to take the end of my thread, pull it out a bit, trap that thread behind it and pop it back in. So if I gently tug on here, it shouldn't come out, just gently. Okay. And taking off that clutch, putting the little belt behind it, and let's watch it do its thing. And it's threading, it's winding the bobbin really, really evenly, so that is great. I'm just going to give it a couple more passes here. And that's about good, I think. So you'll just go until you know it's full. Pull that out and clip the thread, and it's ready to go.